I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who puts her own son behind bars. Most folks in Blackton, Tennessee still think I'm just sweet old Mabel Wilson, who makes the best chicken fried steak in 3 counties and keeps the coffee strong enough to wake the dead. They smile when they say my name, tip their hats, ask about my rheumatism. They don't know that last month on the 15th of November 2025, to be exact, I sat in the courthouse gallery and watched that same boy, 47 years old, still my baby in the back of my mind, get handcuffed and led away for 15 years. 15. Lord, the number tastes like rust in my mouth, bitter and unyielding, like the first sip of cold coffee left out overnight. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, the way a pot of pinto beans needs to start with a cold soak if it's ever going to be worth eating. We'll go slow, layer by layer, because stories like this don't rush, they simmer. My diner, Mabel's Place, sits on the corner of Main and Mill like it grew there from the red Tennessee clay. Red brick front weathered by 49 years of rain and sun, faded green awning that flaps like an old hen's wings in the wind, and that neon open sign flickering the same tired heartbeat since 1978. I bought the building in '76 with the insurance money after Jimmy died in that logging accident up near Crossville. 35 years old, widowed overnight, with 2 kids under 10, $5,000 in the bank, and a stubborn streak wider than the Cumberland River. Folks said I was crazy to take on a rundown greasy spoon in a town of barely 2,000 souls. Mabel, honey, get yourself a nice office job or marry again, they'd say. I told them crazy keeps the lights on, and sure enough, it did. I raised Travis and Julie right there in the back booth, surrounded by the smell of frying bacon and fresh-baked pie. Travis was my little shadow from the start. At 5, he'd toddle behind me, wiping down counters with a rag bigger than he was. By 9, he stood on a milk crate so he could reach the grill and flip eggs without burning his fingers. I made him a little paper cook's hat from butcher paper, and he wore it like a crown, prouder than a peacock strutting the yard. "One day, Mama," he'd say with those big blue eyes sparkling, "I'm gonna own the biggest restaurant chain in the South. We'll put Mabel's golden arches over every interstate exit from here to Atlanta." I'd laugh till my sides hurt and ruffle his sandy hair. "That's fine, baby, but you can start by scrubbing the grease trap. Dreams don't clean themselves." Julie was different, quiet, bookish, always with her nose in a Nancy Drew mystery while she waited tables after school. She got married at 19 to a nice Knoxville boy named Mark, an accountant with steady hands and steadier paychecks. They moved away in '99, and I missed her something fierce, but Travis stayed. He dropped out of community college after 1 semester, said school was for suckers, and came back full-time. "This is my future, Mama," he told me, and I believed him. That was the first mistake, trusting that the boy who loved my diner as a child wouldn't grow into a man who'd try to steal it. For 20 years, he worked beside me, like we were 2 halves of the same whole. Started as dishwasher, slinging suds till his hands were pruny. Moved up to short-order cook, mastering my secret biscuit recipe: lard, not butter, and a pinch of sugar for that golden rise. By 30, he was manager when my knees started acting up from all those years on the concrete floor. I paid him better than fair 30% of the net profits, put his name on the checking account, even let him sign for deliveries from Cisco. We'd sit up late after closing, counting the till under the fluorescent lights, sharing a slice of pecan pie, and talking about the future. "We'll expand, Mama," he'd say. "Add a drive-through, maybe franchise." I'd nod and smile, thinking partnership was the same as love. Turns out it's just paperwork until somebody gets greedy. It started small, like a crack in the foundation you don't notice until the whole house shifts. Around 2015, after the Great Recession finally loosened its grip on Blackton, Travis began changing. He'd come in late, smelling like bourbon from the Roadhouse bar, and cheap perfume that wasn't from any woman I knew. "This place is stuck in the Stone Age. Mama," he'd grumble while flipping burgers, "we need flat screens for sports, craft beers on tap, avocado toast for the tourists." Tourists? In Blackton? I told him folks here want biscuits and gravy, eggs over easy, not $5 toast with green slime that tastes like grass clippings. He laughed like I was already senile, patting my shoulder like I was the child. The comments got sharper over the years, like knives I'd honed myself. You're getting forgetful, Mama. Left the walk-in open again last night? I hadn't. Maybe it's time to slow down, retire to Florida like Aunt Ruth. I could run things proper. You're sitting on a gold mine here and letting it rot because you're too stubborn to change. I ignored it mostly, chalking it up to midlife crisis or bad hangovers, but deep down, it stung like salt in a cut you didn't know you had. Then came the morning in early 2024 that broke my heart clean in two. I was opening up at 5 a.m., as always, when the mail truck dropped off a certified letter from a lawyer in Nashville. My hands shook as I tore it open. Travis had filed papers claiming I was mentally incompetent due to advancing age and cognitive decline. He wanted the court to appoint him conservator of my estate, meaning he'd control everything. The diner, my savings, even my little house on Elm Street. My own flesh and blood wanted a judge to declare me crazy so he could sell Mabel's place out from under me and turn it into some hipster barbecue joint with $18 pulled pork sliders and kale salads. The petition listed evidence, forgotten orders, a misplaced receipt book, which he'd hidden himself, I later learned, and erratic behavior like refusing to modernize. I sat down right there on the flour sacks in the storage room and cried for the first time since Jimmy's funeral in '76. Not loud sobs that echoed, just quiet tears rolling down my wrinkled cheeks, soaking into my apron. The diner itself seemed to swallow the sound, like it was grieving with me. How could my boy, the one I'd rocked through fevers and cheered at Little League, do this? I thought of all the nights I'd worked doubles so he could have new sneakers, the Christmases I skimped on my own gifts to buy him that first guitar, and now this. But I stopped crying by noon. I've buried a husband to a snapped cable in the woods, raised 2 kids alone through lean times, kept this place alive through the oil crisis of '79, the recession of '08, the flood of '11 that put 2 feet of water in the kitchen, and the pandemic of 2020 when we switched to takeout and I nearly lost everything. I wasn't about to let a spoiled middle-aged man in a shiny Ford F-150 take what I'd built with my bare hands. That night, after closing early, I drove the 2 hours to Knoxville in my old Chevy pickup, the one Jimmy restored before he died. Julie met me at her cozy split-level home, concern etched on her face when she saw my red eyes. She's 45 now, a paralegal at a big firm downtown, smart as a whip with a head for details. We sat up till 3 a.m. at her kitchen table, fortified by strong coffee and my old metal lockbox, the one I've kept under my bed since the 80 seconds. It was stuffed with every receipt, tax return, bank statement, and handwritten note since 1976. By sunrise, with the first light filtering through her lace curtains, we had a plan. Solid as biscuits. First, we called my own lawyer Old Mr. Hargrove, who's been handling my papers since Jimmy passed. He laughed when I told him, "Mabel, that boy's dumber than a sack of hammers. We'll countersue for defamation and file for a protective order." Second, I changed the locks on the diner doors and the safe that very morning. Third, I removed Travis's name from all the business accounts, checking, savings, even the vendor lines. Fourth, with Julie's help, I installed 4 tiny cameras the size of quarters, one over the register, one in the kitchen, one in my cramped office, and one in the walk-in cooler. She set them up to stream straight to my phone. I felt like a spy in one of those late-night movies, 72 years old and learning surveillance tech from my daughter. Travis showed up the next morning at 6 a.m., hungover and furious, waving that lawyer letter like a battle flag. His face was red as a beet, eyes bloodshot. "What the hell, Mama? You changed the locks? This is my diner too." He screamed that I was stealing from him, that half the place was his by rights after all those years. Customers, early birds like Old Mr. Jenkins, nursing his black coffee, stared wide-eyed. I just poured him a cup, black the way he liked it when he was 12, and slid it across the counter, calm as you please. Son, I said, voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. This place has my name on the deed and my blood sweat in the floorboards. You want it, you'll have to pry it from my cold, dead hands. Now drink your coffee or get out. He slammed the cup down, coffee sloshing everywhere, and stormed out, tires squealing on the gravel lot. I watched the dust settle through the window, then grabbed a rag and wiped up the mess. Life goes on, even when your heart's breaking. For the next 6 weeks, it was war quiet at first, then ugly. He spread rumors faster than wildfire in dry grass, told the church ladies I had dementia, that I'd started forgetting names and burning toast. Old Mrs. Abernathy even came in with a casserole, patting my hand. Bless your heart, Mabel, if you need help remembering things. I laughed it off and gave her extra pie. Then he called the suppliers Cisco, U.S. Foods, telling them I was behind on bills and unreliable. Deliveries stopped for 3 days. I had to drive to Knoxville myself for eggs and flour. He even phoned Adult Protective Services on me. Can you imagine? A caseworker named LaToya showed up one afternoon, clipboard in hand, looking sympathetic. I invited her to sit, served her a slice of warm peach cobbler a la mode, and showed her my impeccable books, all digital now, thanks to Julie. By the time she finished, she was laughing at Travis's lies and closing the file. You're sharper than most 30-year-olds I see, Miss Wilson. But Travis wasn't done. He started showing up drunk, banging on the door after closing, yelling about what's rightfully mine. I'd turn off the lights and wait him out, heart racing. Julie stayed with me some nights, sleeping on the pullout in my office. We've got the cameras, Mama. He'll slip up. And slip up he did. It was a Wednesday in March 2025, pouring rain like the heavens were weeping for what was coming. I'd closed at 9 p.m. sharp, counted the till $1,247.32. Good night for a midweek. Locked up and driven home through the downpour. Around midnight, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Motion alert from the backdoor camera. Heart in my throat, I pulled up the app. There he was, Travis, hood up against the rain, crowbar in his gloved hand, smashing the new lock like it was tissue paper. 2 men I didn't recognize followed him in rough-looking types with tattoos peeking from their sleeves, probably buddies from the bar. I watched in horror on that tiny screen as my own son ransacked my office. He pried open the safe with the crowbar. Thank God I'd moved most of the cash to the bank that morning, stuffing the remaining deposit bags and the backup hard drive, 49 years of recipes, customer lists, everything into a black duffel. One of the men, a burly guy with a shaved head, started pouring gasoline from a red can around the grill and fryers. I heard Travis clear as day through the audio. Insurance'll cover it all. We'll call it an electrical fire. Old wiring's been iffy for years. Then we rebuild my way. My blood ran cold. He wasn't just stealing, he was going to burn down everything I'd built. I was already pulling on my coat and boots, dialing 911 as I ran to the truck. The rain hammered the roof like gunfire. Sheriff's deputy lives just 3 miles out. I knew he'd never make it in time to stop the fire, so I did the only thing a mama bear could. I drove straight to Travis's double-wide trailer on the edge of town, skidded to a stop across his driveway, blocking him in, and waited on his sagging porch swing. Jimmy's old .38 revolver was in my lap, unloaded. I'm no killer. And my phone was recording audio in my pocket. He pulled up at 117 a.m., truck bed loaded, soaked to the bone, reeking of gasoline even from 10 feet away. His eyes went wide as saucers when he saw me rocking gently in the swing, rain dripping from the eaves. Evening, baby, I said, voice calm as Sunday service. Got something you want to tell your mama about her diner? He froze, duffel still in hand. Then he dropped it and tried to run, boots slipping on the muddy yard. Didn't even have to chase him. He tripped over his own damn garden hose and went face first into the muck like a sack of potatoes. By the time Deputy Rollins arrived, lights flashing blue and red through the rain, Travis was cussing and crying in the mud, wrists cuffed behind him. I handed over the duffel cash intact, hard drive safe, and played the recording. The gasoline cans were still in his truck bed, fingerprints all over them. They arrested all 3 that night. Charges piled up like storm clouds. Arson in the first degree, burglary, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, destruction of property. The two accomplices lowlifes named Bubba and Skeeter, with priors longer than my arm took, plea deals faster than you can say biscuits, and testified against Travis. Said he'd bragged about it for weeks at the bar. Mama's too old to fight back. We'll be rich. Travis's fancy Nashville lawyer tried everything in the trial that dragged through summer and into fall. Claimed his client was under duress from an abusive and controlling mother who'd brainwashed him into the family business. Brought in a psychologist to say Travis had abandonment issues from Jimmy dying young. Even paraded witnesses who said I was overbearing. But Judge Harlan, who's eaten my cat head biscuits every Saturday for 30 years, wasn't having it. Son, he said to Travis from the bench, your mama built that diner with her own 2 hands while you were still in diapers. You tried to burn it down for a quick buck. That's not duress. That's damn foolishness. Sentenced the 15th of November 2025. 15 years in Morgan County Correctional Facility. No parole for the first 8. The courtroom was packed. Half the town came out. Some to gawk. Some to support me. I wore my Sunday best. The navy dress with little white flowers Jimmy bought me for our 20th anniversary, and sat in the front row next to Julie, who squeezed my hand the whole time. When they asked if the victim wished to make a statement, I stood up slow, knees popping like gunfire, and looked my son right in the eye. He was in an orange jumpsuit, shackled, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Travis James Wilson, I said, voice carrying clear through the hushed room. I brought you into this world screaming on a rainy night in '78, and I have loved you every single day since. Changed your diapers, bandaged your scraped knees, worked my fingers to the bone so you could have better. I would have given you this diner gift wrap the day you proved you could run it without burning it down for pocket money. But greed took you somewhere love couldn't follow. You broke my heart worse than any fire ever could. I hope prison teaches you what I couldn't. That family ain't about what you take. It's about what you build together. He wouldn't meet my eyes after that. Just hung his head as they led him away. The diner's still open. Thriving even. After the trial, I hired Rosa's boy Luis, 25, fresh out of culinary school in Chattanooga to manage nights. He's got ideas, but good ones. Added a breakfast burrito special that sells out by 8. Little Ellie Pratt, 16 and sharp as a tack with dreams of college, works the counter after school. She reminds me of Julie, always reading, always smiling. We repainted the walls a warm butter yellow last spring, put in new booths the color of coffee with cream, and even added a small patio for nice days. Business is better than ever. Folks drive from Knoxville and Chattanooga just to eat at the place where that tough old lady put her own son in jail. They ask for the story with their orders, and I tell it plain, no sugarcoating. Gossip's free advertising, and it keeps the seats filled. Some nights, after closing, I sit in my same old booth with a cup of decaf and watch the neon flicker through the window. I think about Jimmy, how he'd have handled this, probably with a hug and a talk instead of handcuffs. About the boy Travis used to be, flipping eggs with that paper hat. About the crowbar, the gasoline, the betrayal that still aches like an old wound on rainy days. Julie visits often now, brings her kids, my grandbabies who run around the diner like Travis once did. Grammy's a hero, they say. I just smile. I don't cry anymore. I won. And every morning at 5 a.m., sharp, rain or shine, I unlock the door, flip the sign to open, and start the first pot of coffee. The biscuits go in the oven. The griddle heats up, and life rolls on. Because Mabel's place didn't burn down that night, it just got rid of the rot. The biscuits are still the best in 3 counties, and they always will be. But let me tell you more about how it all built up, because revenge isn't just the courtroom, it's the quiet victories along the way. Take the week after I changed the locks. Travis tried to play nice at first, showing up with flowers, lilies, my favorite, and that boyish grin that used to melt me. Mama, I was wrong. The lawyer was a mistake. Let's talk. I let him in, sat him down with coffee, and listened. But when he started in again about modernizing, I slid the camera footage from the lawyer meeting across the table. Julie had hacked into his email, found the whole plot. His face went white. How? Doesn't matter, I said. Get out and don't come back till you're ready to apologize for real. Then there was the rumor mill. Blackton's small. News travels faster than my short-order cook on a busy morning. Travis told everyone at the VFW hall I was losing my marbles, forgetting to pay taxes. The IRS even called. Turns out he'd anonymously tipped them off. But my books were spotless. The agent left with a to-go box of fried chicken. "Ma'am, you're a model citizen," he said. The worst was the night he brought his new girlfriend, some bottle blonde named Candy, from the bar to talk sense into me. She sauntered in at lunch rush, fake nails tapping the counter. "Travis says you're being unreasonable, hun. Time to hand over the keys." I smiled, sweet as pie. "Honey, the only keys I'm handing over are to the walk-in. Want some pie?" She huffed out, but not before I accidentally spilled coffee on her white jeans. By the time the arson attempt happened, I was ready. Exhausted, but ready. And after the sentencing, the town rallied. Potlucks every Sunday after church, volunteers to paint and repair. Even old rivals, the owners of the new fast food joint out by the highway, sent gift cards. "Respect," their note said. Now, as 2025 winds down, I'm planning ahead. Julie's helping me set up a trust for the grandkids, and maybe a scholarship fund for kids like Ellie who want to stay in Blackton. Travis writes letters from prison sometimes. "Mama, I'm sorry. I read them but don't reply yet. Forgiveness is a slow cook. Mabel's place endures. And so do I."